Hi, welcome back to Wrestling Rampage. Today we are looking at the Dynamite review from 22nd April. So the first segment, the show started with the video package for Darby Allin spin, a short highlight on like how we won in a rather quick fashion with MJF. So then, as you would imagine, MJF walked into the ring and declaring that he was screwed on Seattle as a Seattle screw job, and he wanted the Derby to hand over the championship to him. So, kind of also he mentioned that his accolades of him beating him and Page, and he can't challenge for the world championship, and he kicked out of pounding Jay easily. And also he could have mentioned he did not so he could have mentioned that Kenny would be never able to win another championship, because he's getting older somehow like that. So now actually Kevin Knight came out calling out MJF for the second time. If you remember, for the last previous time, when MJ was kind of calling out Tony Khan for something, and actually it was the Kevin Knight who came out. That was the first time, and actually he got the heavyweight championship match from that. So from here, yes, he actually he's now the new TNT champion from Dynasty. Yes, from the Dynasty, the Casino Battle Royal. I think it's the Casino Battle Royal. So sorry, it's a gauntlet match. So also, so it's the second time, so I would say if we are moving forward with kind of, if we are having MJF tantrums, and Kevin Knight would be the one to come out, and MJF can be like, are you obsessed with me or something like that. So, and we are going to talk about who would be kind of the better person to be obsessed for MJF later on. So yes, now we're going to now. So what's the gist is about is Kevin talked about he had a visual pin on MJF, and MJF then actually kind of started talking about kind of listing out things about Kevin Knight, that he's the TNT champion, or he's friends with Mike Bailey, in kind of in mocking way. And also and at the end of that, he said, as if my memory served me correctly, I have beat you with the heat seeker for ECW. So what he was saying, and also then he actually praised the TNT championship, but he called him like he's like the TNT championship, like he's the one with the ceiling, he's a workhorse, he's a good hand, and he was the one who never been champion. But he also could have mentioned was that he is a B plus player. So now, if you remember, now if he had said that, a lot of people would gonna go bonkers on that, because it's Stephanie's words. It's like from copying thing from WWE, that kind of it kind of gone to viral moment maybe. So yes, that's it's the one addition that could have been there. It's to be kind of funny. So yes, also I was thinking. So also now Kevin Knight could have said, when you remember the last time you said that to someone, and he was like, if my memory serves me correctly, it was Darby Allin. And MJF can be a lot more angry about don't mention his name with the very other nasty choice of words, I would say. So that was kind of the main gist of this situation out here. Actually, he actually called out for TNT Championship, and Kevin Knight was actually agreed, and they were gonna start a match. The referee actually came out, and before they ring the bell, MJF actually faked out, and he said, "I'm not gonna do that again, and I'll see you next week." So that was a great fake out by MJF. So that's the first segment for you all. Also, one thing to add. So now there was a bit of a time that MJF actually said, so actually Kevin Knight challenged MJF to a match, but MJF was like, there's you have nothing to offer me. So in terms of that, now he actually then kind of backtracked, say it's like okay, now it's okay, it's a TNT championship, I see it, and you kind of proud of it, and that kind of a thing was there. But I would say it's better if he had left right now, and he said, I don't want it, say even bye bye and something like that. And because now the thing is now Darby actually said, so we are going to back to the Darby segment later on, but Darby actually said to MJF, we'll just spoil it, it's been 2 days. Darby actually said to MJF that he has to put something on the line. So this can be something on the line, but it's kind of, in my opinion, it's kind of bit lackluster. He already had TNT Championship, and this is the secondary title. Kind of MJF don't want to do this, what kind of things, but it kind of make an interesting development if you pointed at that way, because like Darby said, you need something else, then like MJF comes out and now call out Kevin Knight, hey, I'm okay to have this championship and all, something like that. So a bit of a backtrack, if you can see, if you can see, this is kind of the face off that they had. Kind of, it's not that much intense, but it's kind of, we have to start somewhere on this. The first backstage segment, the first segment was the Demand and Jericho actually meeting with Renee on the kind of their upcoming match. I think next Dynamite. I know it's on Collision, I think, mainly. So what in here, what they have. So it was a great segment for Jericho here. Always does great on this. So actually, the main part was that Jericho can't kind of find his friends, because he's the guy who gets beat up every time he shows up. But Jericho was like, you can't say that. I actually copyrighted it. Now he has a new shirt uh, that says Jericho, the guy who gets beaten up by Demand, then he shows up. Yes, you can buy that shirt actually. Now it's kind of be a funny gag on that. Also, then now the thing is now the Demand is like, can't any you not able to find any friends that here, that was kind of their main concern. But the Jericho was like at the end, he's like, I don't have to find. Actually called Ricochet Bolt, like that's kind of, that's the like the official term for that. He doesn't say Ricochet or whatever. He just call him Bolt. So also now also the other parties, now he actually said, I have to find people who actually hate you, like he doesn't have to be friends with me. So that was the main part here. The opening match was between Leo Rush and Brody King. You can see Brody King being here. So I just stay in the middle of for this. So actually, so this is a big size difference match. Leo Rush was kind of quick in his feet. Kind of get some offenses in there. Usually, yes, in terms of how they are ranking, Brody King actually won. Based on this, I would say no. Then he called out Darby Allin that actually, like whoever's gonna win the uh, like what you call the championship match at the main event, I will challenge the winner. Based on his win streak. So that was kind of a bit of an issue, um, because in AW now, it's a win is a win. That it doesn't mean it's like if he's a smaller guy, it's kind of if he's in the down the card, if you kind of beat a former champion, that's a kind of a different vibe in here. So I would say it's better to get kind of to get a win over to someone like a Roche, or like Realistic, or let's say it's like Elclon or Josh Alexander, or even someone like that. to like someone that kind of bit significant. They are kind of not the former champions, but they are like on the verge. They are kind of uh, would be suitable candidates, not entirely, maybe mostly on the TNT levels. But I think someone was, if you're beating at someone at that caliber, that would make sense to actually call out Darby in this case. So this is a great segment, talking segment by Tommaso, to actually spoke about he's like he's being small. He haven't considered, he haven't passed the airport test. He was told he is not big enough, he's not charismatic enough for like all the reasons, like kind of throughout his career. So after that, he actually kind of spoke about his passion, that he wants that. So this is the greatest title in this is tonight is for pro wrestling, and this is the greatest title that I want to fight for. And he's kind of more ready, like he's more ready than he'll ever be. So that was kind of a great talking segment from Tommaso. So then, so now Cope had a real emotional kind of talking segment. He actually proposes a fight. So he now, when he lost in Dynasty, so what he proposes is to kind of they want a rematch. They are like kind of offering. Uh, they want to they want a New York street fight as a rematch, and also they are willing to put. They would not be a team anymore. So that's um, kind of the main point there, to like kind of for like retire the Cage and Cope team. So it's a Christian team actually. So I think in here it's was a real great emotional segment on his part. I think FTRs can accept. So in terms of looking at Double or Nothing, I would say FTR should win that also. That's kind of crazy to say, or this Cage and Cope should win, and also that's kind of like kind of the plot convenience that you see, like it should be much more gravitas on this. So to put more gravitas on this going forward, I would say to have real consequences, because we did one pull one with them, Sandman and MJF. So in terms of that, what we are looking at is so like Cage and Cope actually disband. Christian can go do a lot of things, in terms of his gimmick, in terms of that, and Cope and actually can do any other things, kind of help out a new. I would say it's better that kind of age. So sorry, Cope and Christian would have to form their own separate teams with two new talents, so that you get two talents bringing up forward, like without because in terms of tag team division, there aren't any kind of big up and coming stars to kind of promote on that. I would say Cage and Cope should, as great individual wrestlers, can actually kind of bring up two up and come talent to actually work on that. So that's the kind of the long term booking that we see here. Next match was between Mina Shirakawa and Hikaru Shida. So last week, actually, Mina suspected Shida was involved in attacking Story Storm. So she actually challenged her to a match. Now the match was kind of going slow phase, and Mina is getting frustrated over things, and kind of also she tried to attack. She, so what happened was, Shida was going for the kendo stick that was around there. Mina kind of intercepted it and got it first, but Chris Tatlander was there. She actually grabbed it from Mina, and that caused the distraction, and actually she'd actually won this thing. So this is kind of and also uh, talking about Chris Statlander, now she's she came in with interest with Hikaru Shida. Now they are like doing kind of combined poses, as a tag team, getting together, kind of navigating through it. So I think so. The one thing is that when like she'd actually pulls it out and take the kendo stick out, and actually she'd have won. She was kind of bit conflicted, but she's on the positive side that her partner has won. So actually, kind of Chris Statlander's point of view, actually she lost to Tekla twice. She kind of like broken down right now, because she was kind of real passionate when she had to fight Tekla. Now she actually lost two times, and kind of broken in that way, and kind of aimless in what she needs to do. Kind of right here, we'll see how the story progress. Next was a video package between Takeshita and Okada for international championship. That will be a double or nothing. So this was the first match actually announced for double or nothing. So this is great intense. The video package was real great. If you kind of watch the show, you might be able to see it coming on too often. Uh, so it's gonna be a great match, kind of going into double or nothing. The next match shows Mark Davis versus Will Osprey. Now Will Osprey had a match with Hichisero last week. And kind of it's the thing because he had a match with John Moxley on Dynasty. He was kind of battered out after that in terms of fighting Zero. He was also kind of battered out from that. He was kind of at near to a stoppage of it. But here now he actually the doctor had to stop actually the match. Now in here the photo is actually from the times when the Mark Davis, Will Ospreay, and Kyle Fletcher is they were kind of friends and tag team partners. It's kind of to see now. Mark Davis was like real rough on Will Ospreay. Kind of like more on because now he's on the heel side, and he's in Don Callis family. Kind of hostile against Will in terms of here. So it's kind of when you know the backstory, it's kind of you you get the feeling kind of it hits that much harder when we are watching this. Like if you know the backstory, it's kind of hurts a lot more. So in terms of that, so actually the match ends to like the doctor stoppage, and now Mark Davis going to attack Will Ospreay, and actually the Marina Shafir was appeared, and then the other Death Riders came out, and Mark Davis is bailed on that, and actually yes, Moxley actually carried. So Claudia actually carried Will Ospreay, so all of them actually went out carrying Will Ospreay, kind of kidnapped him right then and there. We'll see how that story progress, because now in terms of without attacking Osprey, it's the main thing is like um, uh, so as like the Moxley said last week, kid is not learning. He can't go on like this, every week, and kind of put his body on the line. The thing is that Moxley said, this is not personal, doesn't have to make it personal for me. Now he's now kind of helping out Osprey, kind of creating that because now Death Rider is a face faction, because Moxley turned face on at the Continental Classic. Now actually the ghost from the past, that when they were being heels, and actually he comes back in. Now they have to be heels for a little bit, and they are now slowly returning back to babyface again. So that was the main idea from the Will Ospreay one. We'll see how that story progresses here. Also to say that kind of
That Destroy is actually kidnapping Will Osprey is kind of like a fresh new thing to say, because we don't see that thing in WWE anymore or like any other places. It's kind of like an attitude era thing, you're kind of taking people away, you're fighting outside, something like that. Also, moving on to the next, Samoa Joe is back now. It's kind of like last I would say to like kind of just announcing him, kind of coming in here. I think he got recently cleared, but I think in terms of he should have kind of appear in terms of storyline kind of a moment. I would say it's like actually maybe like at least something like who can kind of Anthony Bones arguing, why don't you kind of not letting me in, I'm gonna fight you, something like then some more Joe appears from behind, kind of chokes him out, something like that. At least something like that. It's kind of bit like lackluster on this, just to show up, just do a kind of a squash match, from here. But again, so the Cody Chun, the guy who was kind of was the opponent, kind of bit of interesting things, because his name is Cody, and he's an Asian, and people are calling him the Asian Daydream or the American Daydream or something kind of related, like uh, Cody Nigan Chun or something like that. Is a kind of Cody references, Cody reference jokes to Cody himself. It's kind of it kind of helps, you actually have a naming kind of a similar name, and it doesn't it kind of doesn't deter you. Usually it deters, if you say, if you have someone else who's called Joe, it's kind of hard, so being him being he Cody and being an Asian, it's a kind of unique proposition to be kind of again to be known as that Me Too brand, and also being kind of a bit unique since he's in terms of China or Japanese or wherever he's from. So next is a backstage segment, again with Alex Windsor, and so Alexis that was talking about that Jamie is just it's not yet being cleared. She doesn't have anyone to actually fight that Sisters of Sin, no, like the two from Triangle of Madness. So that was what they were talking about. And then kind of Persephone appeared. She was like, I heard what you said, and I won't kick some ass, and they are the two most annoying people that I would like to join. So that was kind of her page. Now Windsor like that, she asked Persephone to say something in Spanish in terms of what we're gonna beat the piss out of you. That's just kind of the thing. So yes, so we're gonna have a match at playoff Palooza in collision with them. So in terms of here now, I would say now Persephone is kind of turning babyface in here. Kind of she was kind of in a heelish run, when she faced Willow there. I think back in terms of back in ROH, actually she's kind of a bit of a heel, but I think now what we are going for is to do her face turn in terms of here, and actually kind of dethrone who's the name, Athena from yes, from Ring of Honor. I would say kind of reframing it as kind of a god battle. Again, we did Devil and the god in here, so it's kind of have a god battle. Athena and Persephone. It's also from the Greek mythology. From she's the goddess and she's the queen of the underworld, something like that. So that's kind of the kind of additional backstory, kind of back and front story in here. So we'll see at collision, what they're gonna do. So next is a video package for Darby Allin. It was a great emotional video to kind of commemorate what he's done, like all the crazy things. The main theme is like he's got to be himself and be the champion. So it's last week what he told was like kind of there's a certain expectations of championship material, but like what he wants to do was he wants to be Darby Allin and he wants to be a champion as Darby Allin. Like that's the kind of his most thought. Like he wants to be himself and he wants to be himself and win the world. And so that was the kind of gist of the video, and kind of shows his all the crazy stunts he done, and also at the end of the day, so like the winning the championship. So that was kind of like a summarized package of what Darby Allin is. So yes, so Rene was on Chris Jericho's room. So actually, her Syndicate appears as the partners for Chris Jericho. So mainly, MVP said, it's not personal, it's just business. So like that's kind of the uh, things that they found. It's like not. It's like Chris Jericho doesn't have friends, but he can do business. That's the kind of part that we are going for here. So moving on to the next was the segment of where yes, now Darby Allin actually came into the ring to kind of address the audience in terms of his title win, because this is the first time he's appearing after the spring breakthrough. So he was a bit emotional about the speech, because it. So the Portland, Oregon is kind of the first place he actually wrestled. It's kind of weird to think that his wrestling school is at Seattle, Washington. So we'll see what kind of how it pans out, because yes, it doesn't have to be the same. So, but so I think in terms of planning, I think this is brilliant, because we had the match at the town where he was kind of his hometown, and also now we had the town actually where he's first wrestled. So it's kind of like we have very good Easter eggs in terms of Darby's reign, and also now he spoke about. That he does haven't prepared much anything, because all of this can go away, because it's a 15-minute ride. He just called kind of like the match time, and it all could go away when Tommaso jumps account comes out, he could win also. It's kind of unpredictable in that case, mainly. So when the promo is going on, MJF distracted, he came out and he was angry, and he was angry that people chanting "You deserve it," and he was like, "You don't deserve shit." Now he demanded that Darby should return the championship. Darby said no. Then he's like, "I want the rematch right now," and he said. No again, and he was kind of baffled. But and Darby actually said now, if he actually wants the championship, he have to put something on the line, and he said other people in the back are more deserving than him for the championship, and so that happened, and now Champa Tommaso Ciampa shows up for his match. When Tommaso came out, MJF, got in his face, kind of screaming at kind of things were not really clear. It was kind of mainly about the championship. Now, Tommaso actually gave like a smirk, kind of, kind of evil laugh, as what he does. Gave him a kiss on the cheek, and also, kind of leaving MJF Papel for the second time, kind of seeing like, unsavory things are happening right now, kind of vibe. The match between both of them was really intense, kind of hard hitting, as you know. Tommaso does kind of Ciampa does is kind of take it up to another level. If you've seen what he's done with Johnny Wrestling at NXT, this is kind of like what he does on that. So there was a lot of times he hit the running knee twice, but again he couldn't pin down Darby for 1 2 3. It's kind of like Darby's never give up attitude, to actually to say that he can't be put away. He would rather die, kind of attitude that he has on in terms of towards this. So that was kind of early bit of shown here. So actually there was a time, it could feel like, maybe Darby can be lose. We had that feeling in terms of mid match. So it was a great match in terms of that storytelling. So since actually Davi made Tommaso tap out with this, what you call the sharpshooter, yes, I think Scorpion Lock, right? From Sting's version. So yes, so Darby won this, and actually Tommaso actually tweeted later that he found his wrestling soulmate. That kind of, he would like to have another match. He would be an AEW World Champion. Maybe not now, maybe not in 2027, maybe sometimes in the future. So that was kind of his plan. So at the end of this, Brody Kings comes out, and he helps Darby up, and he mentioned that he talked with Tony Khan, and he he's come to offer that he wanted to ask Darby for the championship match, and Darby agreed, and that was, they both raised their hand. That was kind of the conclusion of the Dynamite. So it's kind of a bit emotional moment in terms of the ending. So thank you for hanging around. Please like and subscribe the video, and also it helps us to keep making new videos on that. So please like and subscribe, and see you in the next video. So we are looking at doing a collision video. So probably when this comes out, the collision video might be out. I'm planning to do a live. Let's see how it pans out. So thank you.